There's a moment that happens to almost everyone, usually around a college roommate or a new job or a breakup that forces you to spend a lot of time alone. You catch yourself doing something, a phrase, a laugh, a way of ending an argument, and you think, wait, that's not mine. You know exactly whose it is. A parent, an ex, a friend from years ago you don't even talk to anymore. And for a second, something uncomfortable opens up. If that phrase isn't yours, how much of the rest of you isn't yours either? Most people close that question fast, too fast. Here's the assumption almost everyone is operating on, quietly, without ever stating it. Somewhere underneath the influences, there's a real you, a core personality that existed first and got decorated, sometimes distorted, by parents, friends, culture, algorithms. The job of growing up in this view is peeling the decoration off until you find the original. It's a comforting story. It's also almost certainly backwards. Watch a child before they have language. They don't have opinions yet, or a sense of humor, or a temperament you could describe at a dinner party. What they have is an extraordinary, almost frightening capacity to copy. Facial expressions, tone of voice, the exact way a parent handles frustration. Developmental psychologists have a term for this, social modeling, and the striking part isn't that children do it, it's that they can't not do it. Copying isn't a phase they grow out of, it's the machinery personality gets built with. So the real question was never which parts of me are fake and which are real. It's there was never a version of you that wasn't built this way. The building never stops. That's the part that should slow you down. Not that you were influenced as a child. Everyone accepts that. It's that the exact same mechanism is running right now, today, on you, an adult who feels finished. Think about the last person you spent a lot of unstructured time with, a new partner, a close coworker, a group chat you check compulsively. Within weeks, without deciding to, you'll notice their sentence rhythm sneaking into yours, their taste in music showing up in your playlist half explained, their opinions arriving in your mouth as if you'd always held them. This isn't imitation in the childish sense, the way you'd mimic an accent on purpose. It's involuntary. It happens beneath the level where you'd notice yourself doing it, which is exactly why it feels, afterward, like it was there all along. That's the mechanism, not that you copy people, that the copying is invisible from the inside. So every acquired trait gets filed under, "This is just who I am," the moment it stops feeling new. Which raises an uncomfortable follow-up. If the process is invisible, how would you ever know which of your traits are load-bearing, actually structural to how you move through the world, and which ones are just scaffolding left over from someone you happen to be near for a few formative months? Most people never ask because the question feels destabilizing. If personality is inherited rather than discovered, it can feel like being told you're a copy, a composite, a performance with no author. That's the fear driving the find your true self industry, the idea that under enough layers there's an original you, untouched, waiting. But consider what that would actually require. Strip away everyone you've ever watched, every value you absorbed before you could evaluate it, every mannerism you caught like a cold from someone you loved. What's left isn't a pure self, it's an infant. Preference, taste, humor, moral instinct, none of it generates from nothing. It has to come from somewhere. The authentic self people go looking for underneath the influences doesn't exist as a separate thing from the influences. It is the particular combination of them, arranged in a way no one else has ever been arranged in. That's the reframe the whole investigation has been pointing toward. and it changes what the original question even means. It was never which parts of me are real, it's which parts of this construction are mine to keep on purpose, and which ones just happen to me. That distinction matters more than it sounds like it should, because not all borrowed traits behave the same way once they're installed. Some of them you'd choose again knowingly if you inspected them. A pair of stubbornness that turned into your work ethic, a friend's bluntness that became your honesty. Those are load-bearing. Remove them and something structural comes down with them. Others are just residue, a defensiveness you picked up from someone who hurt you, still running years after they're gone. A brand of humor you absorbed from a friend group you've since outgrown that doesn't land the way it used to, but you keep deploying it anyway because it's automatic. These aren't you in any meaningful sense. They're inherited code nobody debugged. The unsettling part is that from the inside, both feel identical. Both arrive as just how I am. Nothing about the feeling of a trait tells you whether it's load-bearing or leftover. The only way to find out is to actually go looking, to ask of some specific habit or reaction, where did I get this, and would I choose it again if I noticed I was choosing it? Almost nobody runs that check. Not because they can't, because the traits don't announce themselves as borrowed. They only feel borrowed for a moment, usually by accident, usually around someone who reminds you of the source, before the feeling fades and the trait goes back to feeling like just you. Here's where it stops being a private curiosity and starts being something closer to a quiet, ongoing risk. If you never audit which parts of your personality are load-bearing, you don't stay the same person. You keep absorbing. Whoever you spend the most unstructured attention on, a partner, a feed, a workplace, a parasocial figure you watch for an hour every night, keeps writing new lines into the same invisible code, and you keep filing the results under authentic, because that's the only filing system the mechanism has. Which means the real choice was never influence or no influence. That option was never on the table. The real choice is which influences you're paying enough attention to that they get to keep shaping you. Because attention is the input, and the input never stops flowing, whether or not you're supervising it. Most people supervise almost nothing. They choose their major, their job, sometimes their partner, with real deliberation. Then they let the 1,000 smaller inputs, who they scroll past, who they sit near, whose opinions they absorb without checking, run completely unmanaged, as if personality were the one part of a life that builds itself. So the ending isn't that you should go find your true self, and it isn't that you should try to stop being influenced. That was never available. It's this. Somewhere in you right now is a trait you picked up from someone you no longer even think about, still running, still passing as just who you are. You'll probably notice it the same way you always do, by accident, mid-sentence, hearing someone else's rhythm come out of your own mouth. The only thing that changes, once you've seen the mechanism, is what happens in that moment. Whether you let the feeling pass, filed back under authentic, the way it always has been, or whether you actually stop and ask whose it was, and whether you'd choose it again.